For 50 years, humanity served. 50 years, we bled for a dozen alien species, holding the line against horrors they could no longer face. We gave them our trust, our technology, our best soldiers. They called us brothers. But on the bridge of a lone warship, staring at a betrayal that would burn galaxies, one commander learns the truth. Why would our greatest allies turn on us in a single, unified vote? What secret has humanity been hiding for 20 years, a secret so powerful it could save them or shatter the cosmos? And what happens when an entire civilization, 30 billion souls, is given a single order in one final word? Galaxy Council betrayed humans. We issued the order in one word. Before we begin, subscribe to our channel and ring the bell. Your support allows us to bring these stories to life. Don't miss what's coming next. All right, let's begin the story. Then, Commander Valerius Kane stood on the bridge of the human warship Aegis. His knuckles were white where he gripped the command rail. On the main view screen, hundreds of hostile contacts moved in perfect, synchronized orbits. They weren't pirates. They weren't an unknown enemy. They were their allies. Status on the approaching fleet? Kane's voice was low, tense. His tactical officer, a young lieutenant named Sarah, didn't look up from her console. Still holding position, sir. 12 distinct fleet signatures. One for each of the Concorde's founding races. 12 fleets, surrounding Earth, and every human colony across 12 star systems. His hands shook with a rage so cold it felt like ice in his veins. The message had arrived just minutes ago. Sent from the Citadel, the Concorde's capital on Nexus Prime, where all the great decisions were made. The message was simple, cruel. A knife in the back after half a century of loyal service. Commander, a voice crackled over the ship's comms. It was Ambassador Evelyn Reed. Her voice, usually so strong and full of conviction, was now a broken whisper. She had spent her entire life building peace with the aliens. Kane could hear her heart breaking across the light years. Valerius, the vote was final. Evelyn, what happened? Kane demanded. It was Forlag, the high emissary of the Zeph. He made the accusation. He said we were too dangerous. Too dangerous. The irony was a bitter pill. Kane remembered when humanity first met the Galactic Concorde. Our exploration ships found the edge of their space near a star called Kepler 186. The aliens seemed friendly then. They invited us to join their grand alliance. They said we could have planets, trade rights, protection. All we had to do was follow their laws and help them fight the silicates, ancient machines that consumed entire worlds. For 50 years, we had been their shield. We had been their sword. Humanity shared technology the likes of which the aliens had never seen. Our quantum communication network allowed ships to talk instantly across the vastness of space, a feat the Concorde couldn't replicate. Our adaptive shields could analyze and counter any weapon fired at them. Most of all, our military officers were brilliant. Humans understood war. Really, truly understood it. We had helped the Concorde win battle after battle against the silicate swarm. Human doctors had cured alien plagues that killed millions. Human engineers designed space stations and planetary defenses that made Concorde worlds safer than ever. They had praised us, called us the finest new members the Concorde had ever welcomed. But it was all a lie. What were the terms, Evelyn? Kane asked, dreading the answer. They voted to expel humanity, she choked out. Seize all our territories. Every planet, every station. She paused. And Valerius, they're planning to relocate the population. To work camps. Slavery. They wanted our knowledge. Our labor. But they didn't want us to be free. The aliens had never trusted us. They only wanted to use us. And when we became too good, too important, they got scared. They got scared we'd become the leaders instead of the helpers. High Emissary Forlag had spoken for them all. He said humans learned too fast. That we found weaknesses in alien strategies and political systems no one else had ever noticed. He said we might be friends today, but tomorrow, we might use that knowledge to conquer the galaxy. And the other races, even the ones we saved from the silicates, they agreed. Every single one. The vote was unanimous. Kane looked at the tactical display. Hundreds of alien warships surrounding Earth. For billion humans going about their daily lives, completely unaware that their government had just been betrayed by every ally they thought they had. More fleets were moving toward the mining colonies in the Alpha Centauri system. The research stations near Proxima Centauri. The farming worlds that fed our 30 billion citizens scattered across the stars. The betrayal was perfectly planned. They moved their fleets into position while Ambassador Reed was still sitting in council meetings, thinking she was discussing trade agreements. Our military was caught completely off guard. But Valerius Kane had not become a fleet commander by giving up. "Evelyn," he said, his voice now steady. "Get to your ship. Get out of there. They're already surrounding the station, Val. There's nowhere to. Get out." He cut the connection. He couldn't afford to think about her. He had a civilization to save. He opened a secure military channel, one that connected him to every human military officer, every government official, across all of human space. The channel used quantum encryption that the aliens had tried and failed to break for decades. This is Commander Kane of the Aegis. One by one, the faces of humanity's military leaders appeared on his screen. Fleet Admiral Eva Rostova from Luna Station, headquarters of the human space fleet. General Marcus Thorne from the Mars Defense Grid. Captain Eva Rostova from the exploration ship Odyssey, mapping new stars far from Concord space. Dozens more, from bases and ships scattered across 12 star systems. Kane told them everything. The vote, the betrayal, the plan to enslave their people. He let the horror sink in for a moment. He saw the shock, the rage on their faces. The Concord intends to arrest all military personnel and civilian leaders, Kane said, his voice flat and cold. They will relocate our population to alien worlds. They will make us their slaves for the rest of our lives. A heavy silence filled the channel. But, Kane continued, we have been preparing for this. For 20 years, a secret program had been running in the shadows. A project so secret, only the highest levels of command knew it existed. It was called the Phoenix Mandate. Dr. Eris Thorne had been in charge. He had built ships, weapons, and tools that no alien race knew about, hidden in asteroid belts, on dead moons, in the dark space between stars. Humanity had hoped this day would never come. But hope was not a strategy. Kane took a deep breath. He looked at the faces of his fellow officers. Ready to fight, ready to die. He spoke the single word that would change everything. The word had been chosen years ago by the Phoenix Mandate Planning Committee. The code that would activate every hidden system, every secret plan, every last hope for the human race. The word was simple, clear, and every human who heard it knew exactly what it meant. It meant humanity would not surrender. It would not become slaves. It would not let the aliens win. It meant that humans would leave this galaxy behind and find somewhere else to build a new home. A home that could never be betrayed again. Kane looked at the alien fleets on his screen and smiled coldly. He gave the order that would make the Galactic Concord regret their betrayal for the rest of their existence. The word echoed through every human military base, every civilian command center, across 30 billion people. The word was simple, devastating, and final. Aegis. The command went out. Aegis. On Luna Station, Admiral Rostova heard it. The massive human fleet docked there came to life. On Mars, General Thorne received the transmission. The planetary defense systems protecting the Red Planet from any attack hummed with newfound power. Every human leader understood. They had all been briefed on the Phoenix Mandate. They had all hoped they would never need it. Aegis meant humanity would abandon this galaxy completely and take everything of value with them. The aliens who had betrayed them would be left with nothing but empty worlds and broken dreams. Dr. Eris Thorne had spent 20 years preparing for this day. In secret labs hidden in asteroid belts and on moons the Concord had never bothered to investigate. While human diplomats sat in council meetings, while human engineers built factory ES on alien worlds, the Phoenix Mandate had been creating the impossible. The quantum tunneling drives were the first breakthrough. These engines could move entire fleets instantly across distances that would normally take years. The aliens knew humans had fast ships. They had no idea human technology could actually fold space and time, making distance meaningless. Then came the void weave composites, stealth materials that made human ships and stations completely invisible to every type of alien sensor. Human ships could sit right next to alien vessels and remain completely undetected. But the most important part of the Phoenix Mandate was the Genesis Matrix. Terraforming packages that could turn dead worlds into garden planets in just a few months. Not centuries, months. Each Genesis matrix contained billions of engineered organisms that could process any atmosphere, any soil, and create the perfect conditions for human life. The moment Kane spoke the word Aegis, every human ship and station in the galaxy activated systems the aliens had never seen. Civilian transports that looked like simple cargo vessels suddenly revealed hidden compartments. Thousands of hibernation pods, ready to carry our people to a new home. Research stations began disassembling themselves into modular components, ready to be loaded onto ships and rebuilt anywhere else. The evacuation happened faster than any alien race could react. Earth itself had been prepared. For decades, we had been building hidden tunnels and underground facilities. The aliens assumed it was just human paranoia, a fear of asteroid strikes or solar flares. They were wrong. The entire population of Earth was moved through teleportation networks to ships waiting in deep space. Admiral Rostova coordinated the Luna station evacuation, watching the alien ships approach Earth on her tactical displays. The alien fleets were moving slowly, carefully. They expected resistance. They wanted to minimize damage to the planet they planned to occupy. They had no idea that humanity was disappearing right under their noses. The mining colonies in Alpha Centauri vanished first. Thousands of transport ships loaded with people and equipment jumped instantly to predetermined coordinates in the empty space between galaxies. The research stations near Proxima Centauri were next. Human scientists activated their quantum tunneling drives and took their entire facilities with them into the void. Captain Paulson coordinated the evacuation of the outer colonies from his exploration ship, the Odyssey. The aliens thought the Odyssey was just a curious vessel mapping nearby stars. In reality, it was the command ship for a secret fleet that had been exploring other galaxies for the past 10 years, looking for a new home for humanity. When the aliens finally arrived at Earth, they found nothing. Empty orbital platforms. Abandoned cities. No sign of where 4 billion people had gone. The massive orbital factories that had produced goods for trade throughout the Concorde were completely empty, but undamaged. It was as if the workers had simply stepped outside for a moment and forgotten to come back. On Mars, the alien landing parties found empty settlements and silent defense installations. The underground cities that had housed human families for generations were clean, organized, but completely vacant, as if no one had ever lived there at all. High Emissary Forlag commanded the fleet that reached the Alpha Centauri system. He expected to find the richest human mining colonies, still operating, ready for Zeth occupation. Instead, his sensors showed nothing but empty space. No trace of the massive mining operations that had supplied the Concorde with rare metals for decades. The alien races had prepared for battle, for a siege that might last for years. They had not prepared for humanity to simply vanish and take everything of value with them. The human evacuation was so thorough that the aliens found empty buildings, empty warehouses, empty spaceports. No equipment, no supplies, nothing useful left behind. Even worse for them was the discovery that humanity had been far more important to their civilization than they ever realized. Human engineers had designed the communication networks that connected all Concorde worlds. When we left, we took the knowledge needed to maintain those systems. Human doctors had been treating alien diseases. When they disappeared, medical facilities on dozens of worlds stopped functioning properly. The trade networks, the complex supply chains that kept their planets fed, had been organized and managed by human companies. Without human coordination, the alien races couldn't figure it out. Dr. Eris Thorne smiled as he watched the final transport ships leave the galaxy behind. He was on the bridge of the Sanctuary, a massive arc ship carrying the collected knowledge and genetic material of Earth. They were heading toward their new home, a home that human scouts had prepared in a distant galaxy where no alien race had ever traveled. The evacuation had taken exactly 6 hours and 43 minutes. It had moved 30 billion humans and all their important technology across millions of light years to safety. The Galactic Concorde had betrayed humanity, but in doing so, they had freed us from any obligation to help them survive what was coming next. 2 years passed. Captain Alara Vance stood on the bridge of the colony ship New Dawn. On the main screen, their destination grew larger. A small, pristine galaxy, completely empty of any spacefaring civilizations. Human scouts had named it Haven. The journey through the void had been long, dark, but humanity had used the time wisely. Dr. Thorne had led research teams on dozens of ships as the human fleet traveled. Freed from the restrictions and regulations of the Galactic Concord, his scientists had made breakthroughs that would have been impossible before. Without alien oversight, human engineers developed molecular assemblers that could build entire cities from raw materials in weeks. Human biologists created enhancement programs that improved human strength, intelligence, and lifespan. Most importantly, human weapons designers built defensive systems that would ensure no alien race could ever threaten humanity again. The Haven galaxy contained thousands of worlds perfect for human habitation, and millions more that could be terraformed quickly using the improved Genesis matrix. Lieutenant Anya Rodriguez was on the science vessel Breakthrough. Her job was to monitor the galaxy we had abandoned. The news from Concord space was getting worse every month. Without human tactical expertise, the remnants of the silicate swarm had regrouped. They launched new attacks on Concord worlds, using strategies the aliens couldn't counter. The Concord member races were also fighting among themselves. War had broken out over the empty human territories and the abandoned human facilities that no one knew how to operate. The Zephyrians were at war with the Cthar over control of the orbital factories. But the alien races were discovering that human technology was far more complex than they had realized. The factories were empty shells. We had taken all the important components with us: the quantum computers, the molecular assemblers, the artificial intelligence systems. We left only useless buildings that couldn't operate without human knowledge. Worse, their own technology had stagnated. For 50 years, they had become dependent on human innovation. They had grown lazy, complacent, while humans solved their problems. Captain Vance reviewed the intelligence reports. The communication networks were failing. Medical facilities were shutting down. Trade routes had collapsed. Entire planets were running out of food. The civilization they had worked so hard to protect from us was falling apart without us. In Haven, humanity was building something new. A society based on human values and human capabilities, without any external limitations. The first colonies in Haven were marvels of engineering. Entire worlds were transformed in months. But humans were not alone. We found dozens of primitive civilizations that had not yet developed space travel. Instead of conquering them, we offered friendship, assistance. We shared knowledge that helped them advance peacefully. We had learned our lesson from the Galactic Concord. Human colonies in Haven became centers of learning and trade. The relationships we built with these new allies were based on mutual respect and shared benefits, not the unequal partnership that had existed with the Concord. Our military facilities were hidden, deep in asteroid belts, on artificial stations that could not be detected. Our weapons designers created defensive systems that could protect entire star systems from any conceivable threat. But the most important development in Haven was a new form of government, the HumanvsAliens. Democratic, inclusive, but also designed to prevent the kind of betrayal that had destroyed our relationship with the Concord. Captain Vance smiled as she watched human ships arriving at new worlds, where cities were already rising from barren landscapes. Humanity had found something in Haven they never had in Concord space. Freedom. The freedom to reach their full potential. The exile that was supposed to destroy humanity had instead transformed us into something stronger and more capable than we had ever been before. 5 years after humanity vanished, the old galaxy was burning. High Emissary Forlag stood in the ruins of the command center on Nexus Prime. The planet that had once been the proud capital of the Galactic Concord was now a bombed-out ruin. Devourer machines stalked through the broken streets, hunting for survivors. Without human strategic advisors, the alien military commanders had made mistake after mistake, losing fleet after fleet to an enemy they should have been able to defeat. Forlag was now the supreme chancellor of what was left of the Concord. A meaningless title. Half the member races had declared independence. The other half were too busy fighting each other. The economic collapse had been even worse than the military disasters. The communication systems were failing. Entire planets were cut off, unable to call for help when the silicates attacked. But the worst part for Forlag was the growing realization a dozen former Concord member races had petitioned to leave the Alliance completely and join something called the HumanvsAliens. Refugee ships that escaped from silicate attacks brought stories of human rescue fleets, appearing without warning to evacuate alien civilians before disappearing again into unknown space. Lieutenant Colonel Ben Carter commanded the reconnaissance vessel Shadow Walker. It drifted invisibly through the ruins of a Zeth fleet. His ship used stealth technology generations beyond anything the Concord races had ever seen. The Shadow Walker was one of dozens of human intelligence-gathering ships that had been monitoring Concord space for the past 5 years. Humanity had never really left. We had maintained a network of hidden observation posts, stealth vessels, to keep track of what happened to our former allies. The intelligence reports painted a picture of complete civilizational collapse. Carter watched Forlag's emergency fleet limping back toward Nexus Prime after another disastrous battle. He felt a mixture of satisfaction and pity. The Council races were learning too late. They had destroyed the only thing that had been keeping their civilization alive. Carter received new orders from Human Command. Initiate the next phase. Make contact with certain Council leaders who might be willing to negotiate for humanity's return. The message the Shadow Walker transmitted to Nexus Prime was brief, untraceable, but it contained enough advanced technology to prove it came from a source with capabilities far beyond anything the Concord possessed. The message reached Forlag in his damaged command bunker. It offered him something he had been dreaming about for months. The humans were willing to talk, but only under very specific conditions. Forlag read the coordinates. The humans wanted to meet in neutral space, far from any Concord world or military installation, a place they could control completely. The Supreme Chancellor made the decision. He would go alone. This was the only chance to save what remained of his civilization. As Forlag's small diplomatic ship approached the coordinates, he was amazed to see a massive space station materialize around his vessel. It used technology that seemed to bend space and time, violating everything the Concord knew about physics. The station was beautiful, terrifying, and completely alien, despite being built by the humans who had once been their junior partners. Colonel Marcus Thorne was waiting in a simple conference room. He looked exactly the same as he had 5 years earlier. Impossible, unless humans had developed life extension capabilities. Thorne's first words made it clear. The humans were not interested in returning as grateful supplicants. They were returning as the dominant power. The price of our assistance, Thorne said, will be the complete transformation of the political and economic systems that have governed this galaxy for thousands of years. Forlag realized he was not negotiating for humanity's return to the Concord. He was negotiating for the Concord's submission to human authority. The negotiation stretched into 6 hours. Forlag found himself facing a holographic assembly of human leaders from across Haven Galaxy. General Susan Carter spoke from the human capital of New Terra, where billions of humans lived in cities that combined the best of human technology with architectural principles learned from dozens of new alien allies. The human terms were presented without any possibility of compromise. Humanity would return to Concord space, but only as the senior partner in a new galactic government. The Galactic Concord would be dissolved. It would be replaced with the Galactic Federation, administered by human officials. All former Concord worlds would submit to human oversight and human law. The alternative was simple, final. Humanity would withdraw permanently from this galaxy and take with them the 12 alien species that had already pledged allegiance to the human empire in Haven. The Concord races could face the silicate threat alone. Forlag tried to find some middle ground, some way to preserve alien dignity. But Thorne made it clear that humanity had moved far beyond the need to negotiate with anyone about anything. General Carter showed Forlag what had happened to a rogue silicate hive discovered near Haven Galaxy. The entire system, including the star itself, had been destroyed, replaced with a controlled nebula that served as a monument to human technological supremacy and a warning. Admiral Rebecca Chun explained that the weapon used was just one of many new technologies humanity had developed during their exile. Thorne told Forlag that the Council's betrayal had been the best thing that ever happened to humanity. It had freed them. The most shocking revelation came last. Thorne explained that humanity had never really left the galaxy at all, that advanced reconnaissance networks had been monitoring every Concord world throughout the exile. We watched the economic collapse, the military defeats, the political chaos. We chose not to intervene. We wanted the alien races to understand completely what life was like without human assistance. The lesson had to be thorough and undeniable before we would consider returning to help. Forlag finally understood. He was not negotiating. He was being informed of decisions that had already been made. The humans were offering a choice between submission and abandonment. He looked at the images of the new human empire, the thriving cities, the advanced technology, the dozens of allied species, old and new. He accepted the human terms. He had no choice. Humanity offered the only hope for his civilization to survive. The new galactic government began operations immediately. Human fleets emerged from quantum tunnels to take control of key systems throughout former Concord space. The transition was swift, efficient. Humanity had spent 5 years planning every detail of their return. The word Aegis had begun as a desperate escape plan, but it had become the foundation for humanity's transformation into the guardians and rulers of galactic civilization. The aliens who had betrayed humanity out of fear had created the very thing they had been afraid of. But they had also created protectors. Protectors who would ensure that such betrayals could never happen again.